Welcome to the motherfucking lady. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Listen, we think we've always seen it all in boxing. Now Matchroom and Jake Paul working together. I mean, there was lawsuits going on last year, and now it's like, yeah, they're coming together for the good of the sport.
It is. It's for the good of the sport. I feel like this is how we're going to make those big fights happen. This is going to allow me to be able to unify the division, to work with MVP. I feel like Matchroom needed to do this to make these big fights for women's boxing. So I'm just really grateful that we were able to get it all over the line and get it done.
Some are interpreting this strategic partnership between Matchroom and MVP as Matchroom's further withdrawal from the women's game. That if anything, what they're doing is pawning off Skye Nicolson on MVP, let somebody else make her fights and deal with her. Emma Willis, a longtime friend of the channel, said, to be honest, I think the partnership benefits MVP more if Matchroom gives them a slot. Not just as opponents. MVP shows and fighters are basically forgotten now. Talking about Katie every day didn't get them as far as they thought it would. This means there's much less of a chance of a Matchroom card getting ruined by the addition of Skye Nicolson. I'm grateful for this partnership. Skye was the only fighter promoted by Matchroom that was announced as being co-promoted by MVP. They didn't make such an announcement about Elif Nur-Turan or Tia May Ayton, Molly McCann, Shannon Bryan, the other Valkyries they promote. They didn't make those same announcements about them. They only made it about Skye. But tell me that Skye Nicolson wouldn't have better serviced Matchroom on a Matchroom show like the one they're about to have in Australia, where there just so happened to be 2 female fights on the bill. Now, those 2 female fights and those female fighters, none of which are signed to Matchroom, like Skye is. Show's going down in about 2 weeks' time in Australia, headlined by unbeaten Aussie Tira Moana. So why couldn't Skye have been added to that show? One would think that makes a lot of sense. Instead of adding her to the Birmingham show in the UK, headlined by Michaela Mayer and Chantel Kimran, Matchroom reached a deal with Foxtel down there to do a certain number of shows on the Australian continent, and one would think that a fighter like Skye would be the centerpiece of those shows, or somewhere near the center. That if you're going to be doing shows down there regularly, she should be a big part of that. Emma Willis continued, Matchroom doesn't need this partnership, and they have no interest in a full stable of women like they had before. If they want an MVP fighter, all they need to do is get mandated. That's also true. I mean, if it really were about cornering fights with MVP fighters and their Valkyries, they could just go the mandatory route or make an offer to them themselves. The crux of it is, it wasn't actually necessary to form a partnership with MVP to have access to their fighters. There were other ways to get there. So what is this really? Is this Matchroom further withdrawing from the women's game now that their golden goose, Katie Taylor, is set to retire? It's one way to look at it. I think that if all this results in is Matchroom girls migrating over to MVP for specific fights, then they are withdrawing from the women's game if they're not putting on those fights themselves. But if it works both ways, and you get some Matchroom girls on some MVP shows and some MVP girls on Matchroom shows, then it's beneficial. Then you're seeing more women fighting more often on more platforms across more promotions, which results in more exposure for the women's game. That's how it used to be during the big women's boxing boom of the last 10 years. They just inked this partnership. We have to see how it works out. All we know so far is Skye Nicolson is set to make her MVP debut next month on the undercard of Mayer versus Cameron. But think about who she's fighting. She's fighting Miyo Yoshida. That's a fight she didn't have to go over there for a fight like that. Matchroom could have put that on themselves on one of the varying undercards for the shows they're doing the next few weeks. They could have did that for the Tira Moana card. I think that would have been more ideal for her to box in front of her native Aussie audience. It's what makes Emma Willis's argument all the more compelling. Is this Matchroom really doing more for the women, or just a veiled effort to withdraw from the women's game and pawn their girls off on MVP? We'll see. And can MVP, given how many girls they already have signed, really afford to keep taking on more and more? This boat's taking on water. I don't know. Now it's time for another installment of what has fast become one of the more popular segments here on the channel. Not the Ring IQ hate mail, but the Ring IQ mailbag, which is a bit more friendly. Uncle Jack, friend of the channel, asked, Peace, Jules, one for the mailbag. Do you view being Lineal and Ring Magazine champion as a separate or lesser accomplishment than holding all 4 belts? There is a bit of gray area there. David Benavidez is strategically angling to get all 4 belts, but will not be undisputed unless he beats Opataya. In my view, Opataya doesn't need any of those belts to stay top dog at Cruiser. What's your take? It's a unique situation, unique indeed, because usually the Ring Magazine title is held alongside other titles that a champion happens to pick up. If the question is, do I hold the Ring Magazine title and Lineal status in higher esteem than I hold Alphabet titles, then the answer is yes, because both the Ring Magazine title and Lineal status, all of that predates the Alphabet organizations. Before they existed, there was a Ring Magazine champion, and before that, there was a Lineal champion. So just based on the historical precedent, absolutely, then you think about the framework. You can be elevated to Alphabet champion via one of these organizations without having to throw a punch, without actually getting into a fight, like David did in the light heavyweight division. But that isn't possible for Lineal status or the Ring Magazine title. To get those, you've got to go through somebody, and you've got to go through somebody good, like Jai Opataya did when he fought Mayris Briedis, the #1 cruiserweight at the time and winner of the 2nd season of the World Boxing Super Series. For me and my money, a better fighter than any fighter you'll find on David's CV at 168, at 175, and even now at Cruiser. The scalp of Mayris Briedis is better than any scalp on David's resume. That's a big part of the reason I hold the Ring Magazine title and Lineal status in higher esteem than just sanctioning body belts. As stated, you can get elevated to champion via those organizations, but you can't get elevated to Lineal. To be the man, you have to beat the man. It's the same with the Ring Magazine title, which is often held alongside Lineal status. So let's say that David goes on this campaign and he picks up every single sanctioning body belt left to pick up. Right. The WBC. Right. The IBF. Right. Would that be enough to rate David Benavidez ahead of Jai Opataya, even though he's Ring Magazine and Lineal champion? I believe that would depend on how you view those champions as opposed to Jai. Those guys that David's going to have to go through to get those belts, like Noel Michaelian, for example. Is he a better fighter than Jai? No. Anecdotally, no. I don't think for a second Jai Opataya would have needed to fight Badu Jack 2 times for 1 win when Badu's in his 40s. Call me crazy, but I think Jai would have got the job done the first time. Now that's just anecdotal. On paper, Noel Michaelian's never been Lineal, never been Ring Magazine champion. He never has. That is conclusive, not anecdotal. Comes to the IBF champion and whoever that ends up being, odds are that it's going to be the same deal. Whoever wins that red and gold title, odds are they've never been Ring Magazine, they've never been Lineal, so they're not as accomplished as Jai Opataya, as stated. Beating them is not the same as beating him. So it matters a great deal. Who are you actually fighting for those Alphabet titles? Who are they? What do their resumes look like? Now, the argument can be made that it's been a long time since Jai Opataya fought somebody good, and the crown jewel of his resume really is those 2 wins over Mayris Briedis. But since then, the quality of competition is nosedived. But is that because he doesn't want to fight guys, or because guys don't want to fight him? You know the answer. He wanted to fight Chris Billum-Smith. He was calling him out. It was the same with Zerto. Those 2 champions, when they were champions, chose to fight each other because they viewed each other as safer options than fighting him. So when he doesn't get them, is that his fault or theirs? We're gonna castigate him for the people that are avoiding him? No, of course not. But this is the point in the argument where people choose to be disingenuous, only telling half the story, that he didn't fight CBS or that he didn't fight Zerto. When these the ones didn't want to fight him. It's the same with David. David could be fighting him now for more money than he's about to make with Noel Michaelian. But who does he go with? Noel Michaelian. And don't take the bait. It's not for the glory. It's not really about legacy. It's because it's a more winnable fight. You've seen an active push since this fiasco started to devalue the Ring Magazine title and Lineal status so that David doesn't have to go through Jai to get it. But are you really undisputed champion in a division if there's a Ring Magazine and Lineal champion there by definition? No, there's room for dispute because there's still one champion left. And what would David's undisputed run be if it didn't also include Jai Opataya? That's literally the very best fight to make in the division. So it would seem that the universe is not without a sense of humor. People try to devalue Canelo's undisputed run because David Benavidez wasn't a part of it, even though David didn't have a belt of any kind, a title of any kind. Not the Ring Magazine, not the Lineal, and no Alphabet titles either. But they still like to devalue Canelo's run. Because David wasn't a part of it? Well, we can use that same logic to devalue David's because Jai's not a part of it. Not yet, except it's even worse with Jai because Jai is Ring Magazine and Lineal champion. David won none of those things when Canelo got the 168. David is very strategic, and you have to be observant to notice it. That long before Canelo Alvarez even arrived at 168, David was a champion, and he didn't have the same desire to unify there that he supposedly has now at cruiser. Maybe it's because he only wants to unify now to avoid Jai. Winning those Alphabet titles would be easier than winning the Ring Magazine and Lineal title. Thus, based on the current state at the weight, and who David would have to go through to get those belts, even if he completes that journey, gets them all, I still couldn't really rate him above Jai. Not at cruiser. Maybe on the pound for pound? For being a champion at 3 weights, I suppose, but I can't rate him above Jai at cruiser. You're not the king of that division. Not till you go in there and beat him. Beat the man to be the man. Downstairs in the men's lightweight division, William Zepeda, ahead of this weekend's fight plans, smart pressure against Lamont Roach Jr. William Zepeda believes the lessons from his lone professional defeat have already made him a better fighter, and he plans to put those adjustments to the test when he faces Lamont Roach Jr. for the vacant WBC lightweight title on August 1st in Vegas, after giving Shakur Stevenson one of the toughest fights of his career before losing a unanimous decision last July. Zepeda spent the past year refining both his technique and his approach. Rather than simply relying on his trademark volume punching, the Mexican contender noted the camp focused on controlling his emotions while fighting with greater patience. You have to hope that he didn't abandon his volume punching, as that is what makes him such a handful, so dangerous within close quarters. The guy's like a Gatling gun. We knew there were many technical things to improve, Zepeda said to the Sporting Tribune. More than anything, it was controlling my emotions, not getting desperate, knowing how to manage the pace of the fight. Those are very important things. You have to stay calm, because one combination can get through if you lose your composure. Those were things I worked on in the camp. The changes extended beyond the gym. Zepeda entered camp feeling refreshed. After taking an extended break following the Shakur fight, he discussed new ideas with his team, brought in a nutrition specialist to prepare meals tailored for athletes, and worked with quality sparring partners to reinforce those changes. Those lessons have shaped his strategy for Roach, one of the lightweight division's sharpest counterpunchers. I hope he didn't change too much, because I don't think he would have needed to change much to beat Lamont Roach. The Lamont Roach that gave Shakur Stevenson all he could handle, that same guy, the way that he was, I think would have beat Lamont easy. Zepeda knows relentless pressure alone will not be enough against an opponent who thrives on mistakes. We have to apply intelligent pressure, Zepeda said. Not just pressure for the sake of throwing punches, because Roach's style works well against fighters who are constantly punching. We have to work upstairs, work downstairs, put our combinations together, and not stay in one place. Any opening you give Roach, that's where he can start taking control with his counterpunching. Zepeda also stressed the importance of denying Roach those opportunities. We have to avoid leaving gaps and not give him chances to work. How does he do it? Now, those are the subtleties, the nuances. That involves cutting angles before and after throwing a punch, staying off the line, off the center line, changing levels, going upstairs and downstairs. That involves not telegraphing your punches and being predictable, throwing the same combinations over and over again. Like when Leo Santa Cruz fought Gervonta Davis and threw the same punch 3 times in succession and got himself countered, got himself knocked out. It's not doing things like that. Educated pressure? Tightening up those hooks, tightening up those uppercuts, being more defensible with your offense, if that makes sense. Friday's title fight represents another opportunity for Zepeda to show that the Shakur defeat was a turning point rather than a setback. If the technical adjustments translate into the ring while allowing him to maintain his trademark pressure, he could leave Las Vegas with the first world title championship of his career.
It's not just winning the title either. It's making a splash, as neither Gervonta Davis or Isaac Cruz were able to beat Lamont Roach cleanly. All they could do was draw with him, so that if William Zepeda can succeed where they failed, that's a nice feather in his cap. That'll make a splash.
What they've been saying in defense of Gervonta Davis drawing with Lamont Roach, where everybody picked him to knock him out, is that Lamont Roach must have greatly improved. He must have got better following his lone defeat to Jamel Herring years ago.
Okay then, I'll be your Huckleberry. Let's say that he got better and he loses to Williams.
It's a nice feather in Williams' cap, wouldn't you say, as both Gervonta Davis and Isaac Cruz are more popular than William, more talked about. But if he succeeds where they failed, it's got to be worth something.
Educated pressure.
It's not just a buzzword, you know. Educated pressure is the difference between Joe Smith Jr. and Artur Beterbiev. They're both pressure-style fighters. They both are. But what you get from one is a lot more neat and a lot more tidy and a lot more thoughtful than what you get from the other. It's sort of the difference between William and Isaac.
I think it is. And that'll be put on display this weekend because William sets the same pace for a fight that Isaac does, a frenetic pace, throwing punches in bunches. But what you get from Isaac is very frenzied, sloppy.
Lots of haymakers, lots of fat punches, wide punches over the top. It's repetitive, it's predictable, even though it's pressure. It is pressure fighting. What you get from William are shorter punches, tighter punches, more defensible, combinations, not just flurries.
But stuff that can actually pierce the opponent's guard, going upstairs and downstairs, opening him up.
Now, I already thought that William Zepeda was a better grade of pressure fighter than Isaac Cruz. That will be put to the test this weekend when he fights Lamont Roach, who services as a common opponent between them. Stylistically, it's the same kind of fight, but with a better grade of fighter.
So then William should win.
That's how I have it. Even though he hasn't fought since the Stevenson fight, and that was a while ago, I don't think it's going to bother him. I don't think he's going to miss a beat on Saturday. I think he's going to wear down and wear out Lamont Roach. I think he's going to stop him.
Lamont struggled with Isaac in the early goings of their fight. Eventually, he gathered himself and grew into the fight, but I don't think that's going to happen this Saturday. Not with this guy. I think Lamont Roach is about to lose.